How's everybody doing? My name is Danny Werman. I'm with Goodwill Southern California. I'm the Sector Strategies Manager for all of Southern California. So happy that you're here. Welcome to our logistics meeting for the Manufacturing Skills Group. Just a quick reminder, as we're going through the meeting, go ahead and just think about this one question. As we get to the end, we're going to have a group discussion around what's your biggest problem when it comes to workforce development, and just your workers in general. So go ahead and jot that down on a piece of paper. Maybe it changes throughout the course of the meeting, but at the end, go ahead and bring that up and we'll have a group discussion around that. I see a lot of more people filtering in here. Welcome everybody. Go ahead and please put your info into the chat and get your question ready. What's your biggest problem around workforce? So before we get going officially, I want to introduce Dr. Luis Barrera Castañon. He's our WCD Strategic Impact Officer. He's going to bring up a quick word and kind of talk to you for a little bit, and then we're going to get going. Luis, over to you.
Thank you so much, Daniel and Leo, Tracy, Daniel, and the team for just putting all this together, and everyone as well. Dennis, thank you for your support on all this. Just wanted to say hi to everyone, and this is the first time that we're meeting as a logistics. Well, this is part of our global logistics and transportation work that we have with the Irvine Foundation and with Balmer Foundation. And one of the things that we're doing is really looking at how we might be able to provide support to this industry, similar to what we did with manufacturing. So Goodwill Southern California is one of the largest manufacturing apprenticeship programs in the state. And we've been doing manufacturing work for the last 6 years or so. And really at the core of our work is creating cultures of learning and supporting employers to stay competitive in the field. And now as we're expanding this work into global trade and logistics, as well as healthcare pathways, we're really looking at the field to guide us and give us support about where we go. So this is the first time that we're meeting. We actually, similar to, I think a lot of you, we haven't met for some time, at least in person. We've continued to do this work online and through Zoom. And for Goodwill, it has been a very interesting couple of years. We've never, our organization, and for some of you who know Goodwill Southern California, you know, our stores is the how. Our stores are the way that we operate, that we bring in funding to support our why, which is our workforce and career development department. This department that I'm happy to co-lead here for our organization, we support our community through different employment centers. We have 117 programs that we operate specifically for individuals with disabilities, those who've been formerly incarcerated, those experiencing homelessness, our youth and veterans. So we have specific programming across the 3 counties, which is Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and Riverside. But through the pandemic, our organization and our business model really wasn't made to just not operate, right? To not have stores available to the public. And so we went through some really difficult times, but really happy to say that in the last couple of years, we've been able to really turn things around. We're a leaner organization, and we're really looking at how we invest some of these dollars that we've been able to gain along the way back into our communities. And so through that process, we've identified, again, this pathway along with healthcare and manufacturing to invest in, to underwrite in, to really look at where we might be able to support and provide resources to uplift our communities, with obviously a special interest in the special populations that we serve. So all that to say, you know, thank you so much for your attendance here and for your partnership. We look forward to growing this pathway along with all of you and seeing how we might be able to be of service to the community at large. So thank you also so much for being here, and appreciate the partnership again. Thanks, Danny. Back to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Luis. I really appreciate it. And just to echo really quick, folks, because I know we have a lot of people that are new faces here, as well as old faces and friends and colleagues. So I kind of just want to back up for all you folks that are newer and don't really know what we do. So I'm going to echo a little bit of what Luis just said, and really, who is Goodwill Southern California? What do we do in this space? I bet you a lot of you have dropped off your clothing or secondhand goods, or just whatever it is, to those Goodwill stores. And really, at the end of the day, what Goodwill and those stores are really there for is to help transform lives through the power of work. And that's why those stores exist, to give people that leg up into getting their careers going while they reskill and refocus their lives and move into different sectors. Now, what you probably don't know is, yeah, there's the clothing stores, but like Luis said, Goodwill has over 80 different programs. Specifically, Goodwill Southern California has over 80 different programs to where we serve different population groups for veterans, uniquely abled, reentry, youth. We have the American Job Centers. So there's a lot of different programs and folks and people that we connect to and serve to help them reskill and transform their lives through the power of work. One of those programs is why we're here today, and that is GAP, the Goodwill Apprenticeship Program, which primarily focuses on workforce development tools and resources. We target those tools, those workforce development tools and resources, towards global trade and logistics, you kind folks right now, healthcare, as well as manufacturing. The meeting that you're meeting on right now is underneath our little meeting hub, our banner of the SoCal MFG Skills Group. That's like our meeting post. This is the group that we really use to gather all of our partners together and conversate and communicate. So I know there's a lot of new names going around: Goodwill Apprenticeship Program, and Manufacturing Skills Group, and what these organizations are. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of a lay of the land, and you kind of know what all these different names mean and who we are and what we're doing. So I just really want to emphasize that GAP, the Goodwill Apprenticeship Program, and our team specifically, we're here as your center hub when it comes to workforce. So if you need new talent pipeline connections, if you need to train your internal staff, if you want to look into apprenticeship programs, we're the team. Just email us up, call us up. We'd be more than happy to get you connected to our network and anybody that we can utilize to help you. So part of this workforce development that we do, we've done it for a lot of different companies around SoCal. This is a handful of the companies, of which some of these people are on the call. AMS Fulfillment's on the call, Acceleron, thank you for being here on the call, and some other folks. So we've done a lot of workforce development for different aerospace manufacturers as well as logistics companies around Southern California. Now, some of the interesting things that I want to kind of pivot to at the end of the conversation, end of the call, is really around the problems when it comes to workforce. Professor Medina, who's going to speak after me, he's going to kind of highlight some of these problems and speak to them further, but I just wanted to give them to you now so they're in your head, just so start thinking about, are these the problems that I'm having at my company? The revolving door is a really big one. When I worked for an aerospace company out in Burbank, this was a really big problem, getting new people in and then they would leave within 4 to 6 months, which was a high turnover cost, roughly $10,000 for that amount of time that they've spent at the company and then would leave. Upskilling your workforce, how are you going to actually set up career pathway plans inside of your company, of which a tool of apprenticeship is there to help with that. Talent pipelines in general, connecting to all your local schools and training centers to know when their graduations are happening so you can hire these individuals. And of course, the retiring workforce that we all know is coming like a big tsunami wave. And that's going to be establishing the lost brain trust. And how are you going to gather that information and bring it into some sort of a training system so that the new guard, the new generation, can start learning what the old guard has to teach, which is a lot. So that's a really big concern right now inside of logistics companies as well as manufacturing companies and healthcare alike. Some of the training providers that we've worked with, ELAC, you're going to hear from them in Professor Medina. Titans of CNC, we're starting to get them plugged into our local high schools and junior highs. That's for the manufacturing side of the house. And of course, a whole bunch of community colleges across the board, as well as high schools. Some of the problems that all these high schools and programs are typically having is student drought and awareness that these talent pipelines really exist, that these career pathways exist. That's an issue. So we're helping the schools with gathering students and people to come into those classrooms. School support sometimes can be an issue, sometimes it's not, depends on the school. Partner support, like us folks supporting them, industry supporting the schools, getting them their curriculums aligned to industry. And then also marketing. This is probably one of the biggest problems across the board, no matter what sector you're in, is that's just straight marketing. Awareness that, again, the career path exists. this could be helped from the company side as well as the school side. And we're hoping to help in any way that we can when it comes to marketing awareness. So the basic idea here, folks, it's not rocket science. It's straightforward. Goodwill Southern California has connections to a lot of different programs that have different population groups. Think of them as the general public. Let's take one, for example, the veterans. They're coming out of retirement or they're coming out of the military. They want to reskill. We identify those individuals. We bring them to their local training center for the skill they want to learn. And then, so take ELAC for logistical training. They come into ELAC, and then we help them find their local company around ELAC to get hired. And then boom, they're hired, they're ready to go. Now, what we do to help on the other end and really the company end, and this is one of the bigger pieces, and Dennis Grogan's going to speak to this after Professor Medina speaks, and that's around the workforce development piece for you as the company. And we want to really make sure that you have all the tools in place so that you can bring in somebody that's had 6 weeks to 6 months of training and then cultivate that student, that new hire, into your next shop lead, manager, wherever you need to go. So that's really developing a learning and teaching environment at the company. And Dennis Grogan is going to talk about that and really share with you all the tools that we have and development tools that we have for you as the company. And I would say that's really step one for you, is to start developing that learning and teaching environment, and then plug into the local training centers so that you can start those new hires coming in into that career pathway plan that you have laid out at the company. So lastly, really just as a quick, again, note, and punctuation is awareness. And we're trying our best to bring these different populations groups awareness that your companies exist and that your hiring needs exist and that the training centers exist. And there's a learning and career pathway plan ready to go for them that they can walk down. So we're developing different flyers. Again, this is targeted to maybe military veterans. This is a generic apprenticeship flyer, and this is generic information as well. So for my companies that are on the call, it's very simple. The next steps that I would really want you to think about is setting up that learning and teaching environment. Again, listen to Dennis Grogan at the end of this call, and we can have at the later portions of this call, and we can have a discussion around that. And of course, establishing the talent pipelines. And you're going to hear from Professor Medina to help you establish perhaps maybe even your first talent pipeline out of college, and that would be at ELAC. So without further ado, Professor Leo Medina, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk logistics, talk career pathway, and all that good stuff. As I transfer it to you, I'm going to stop my sharing so then you can start to pick it up. Mm-hmm. And then Professor Medina, I will turn it over to you, sir.
All right, great. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the Goodwill team. Happy to be with all of you and share some of my expertise and share a lot about our logistics program at East Los Angeles College. And I have my Dr. Marenholt, who is my department chair. She's here in support of everything that we do, all things logistics, all things East Los Angeles College. And as was mentioned, we want to be your college of choice. We want to be your college of choice here in the LA region and above if necessary, and be able to help you position your employees for career success. And I'm going to share my screen and talk to you a little bit about the logistics industry, current situation. I call it the state of the workforce, and also how we can provide a solution as a community college. Share my screen. Okay. All right, here we go. Perfect. Daniel, give me a thumbs up if you see my.
You're good to go, brother. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. So I'm starting off with this. This is a nice. I put this together. I thought it was cute. It's a nice little van delivering career education, technology and logistics program at East Los Angeles College. Talked to Daniel yesterday. We slapped in that little Goodwill brand right up there as partners. I think doing this together makes perfect sense. But without further ado, this is me. I'm Professor Medina, 18 years of logistics experience at UPS. Spent most of my time in operations management and in the latter years in human resources. Went to Cal State LA for my master's in education, undergrad in organizational communication. Really, I'm a product of LA, born and raised here, and very happy to serve my community. The state of logistics. Well, some of you here are in the logistics industry, not all of you. This is like practically preaching to the choir, but I think it's worth noting the perfect storm. It's worth noting the perfect storm that we are currently in. And the perfect storm is logistics, as you know, was highlighted as a pandemic-proof, recession-proof industry. Pandemic-proof, recession-proof industry. And we were coined, acknowledged as essential, vital to the economy and to moving the world's goods. Some additional stats, online sales, or we call it e-commerce or mobile commerce, is unstoppable. The sales are projected to increase from 4.9 trillion in 2021 to 6.4 trillion by 2024, online sales. And the future of e-commerce right over here is post-COVID-19, 25% jump in online sales or mobile shopping. And in addition to that, sales made via mobile devices are on the rise and will total 3.79 trillion this year, mobile sales. I think most of us realize that we used to shop from our desktops, we used to shop from our laptops, but now we're shopping from our mobile phones in crazy environments. I mean, everything from when you're waiting in line at Ralph's, we're tapping here, we're tapping there to buy something. In the restroom, taking care of business, we're tapping here, tapping there, purchasing items. I mean, this is the new norm. The new norm is e-commerce logistics, and that has caused the explosion in the industry. And in addition, what about the ports? Between the ports of LA, the ports of Long Beach, moving 20.1 million containers last year alone, an increase of 16% from 2020. Logistics, e-commerce is the new norm of business, And we should be teaching this in high schools. We should be teaching this at community colleges and universities. It's the new norm of business. Everyone needs to understand where we are at. I consider this the perfect storm for all of us. But what is the state of the workforce? What is the state of the workforce and the need to reskill and upskill the workforce? Today, the workforce, employers are experiencing the talent war. What that means is because of the increase of volume, the increase of work in the logistics industry, we have employers taking other employees, stealing each other's talent, slapping $10,000 bonuses, $20,000 bonuses, $100,000 bonuses to switch over to the next organization. I think there's all of us probably have experienced a form of talent war, a fight for talent. And the only way that employers are realizing is that if we slap that bonus, that entry bonus, onboarding bonus, that's the way we're going to win this particular war. We call it a talent war. The Great Resignation, a good number of you understand what that is. If not, it is an exodus. It is an exodus from employers. Who's exiting? Start from employees. Who's exiting? Folks that are exiting are, we call it the silver tsunami. They realize, during the pandemic, I need to spend more time with my kids and my grandchildren. It is more valuable for me to leave now and spend the rest of my time with my loved ones. The boomers are leaving. Folks who are not interested, not engaged at their organizations are leaving. Folks that realize there's more job opportunities out there are leaving. And here's some interesting statistics out there for you. And I'll read them. I'll do my best to read them briefly. The Great Resignation is where employees have new expectations for what they want and need from their employers post-COVID. People continue to leave their jobs in search of flexibility, better work-life balance, and autonomy. Pay attention to that. The great resignation is primarily due to people leaving their jobs in search for what? Flexibility, because they realize, hey, I can get most of my work done, all of my work done, even perform even better working remotely. Better work-life balance because I get to take my kids to school in the morning, and autonomy. Here's an interesting statistic. The great resignation isn't over. A recent survey from McKinsey found that 40% of employees are thinking about leaving their jobs in the next 3 to 6 months. A figure unchanged from 2021. Here's another quick statistic here. Workers continue to feel the effect of the pandemic and on their mental health and well-being. More than 30% of Americans reported they felt symptoms of anxiety and depression between March and April of 2022, compared to just 10% pre-pandemic. This is from National Center of Health Statistics. And let me give you 2 more quick ones. Flexibility and work balance trump financial compensation. Wow, how about that? That is new. A whopping 63% of job seekers recently surveyed indicated work-life balance as their top priority when picking a new job above compensation. That's really interesting. The same survey found that workers are 2.6 times more likely to report being happy when satisfied with their company's time and location flexibility. Last one, 40% of Americans said they would look for another job if forced to go back to the office full time. Very interesting. The great resignation is real. The pandemic really pulled the curtains on a lot of things, and employers really need to think critically, empathetically about their new workforce. Quiet quitting is really, briefly, folks that are working for you that have disengaged and are thinking about hobbies, thinking about side hustles, and fantasizing that, and then even working towards that while working for you. They call it quiet quitting, disengaged. So what is the solution? Here, I'll give you one quick one. Most important solution is a growth pathway for your employees. The way to engage them is to provide growth opportunities. And we all know learning is growing, and learning is earning. And creating opportunities or career pathways for your employees to grow is very, very essential. Everyone wants to feel engaged. Everyone wants to feel my employer values me. My values align with my employer's values, and my employer not only cares for me, but also is providing me a pathway for growth in this organization so I can take some additional ownership in this organization. And here is part of the solution. East Los Angeles College. I'll play this. My name is Leo Medina. I'm a professor at East Los Angeles College, and I teach courses in technology and logistics. This program is directly tied to industry. We align our curriculum to meet the existing needs and the future needs of organizations. So any college student, any high school student, any business professional taking our courses will get cutting edge, real-time curriculum that will position them to land a job or to move up in their existing job.
The logistics courses just expanded my view, just, broadened my horizons in understanding the industry. And finding this job, I was really excited to look for a new place where I could grow, a new place where I wouldn't be stuck at a dead-end job. It was one of the first times that I was able to take something that I'm learning and apply it immediately to a real-life situation.
I work in the central instruction department, and so this is basically the training hub. Some of the things that I've learned in the logistics program, I've been able to apply different methods of teaching, different methods of getting people to understand the information as it's presented. And if they're not, what can I do to make it better?
If you join our program, we're committed to developing you into a problem solver, an innovator, and business disruptor in the logistics industry. We'll make that commitment to you. There's jobs for everyone. There's careers for everyone. And if you don't believe me, talk to UPS, talk to Metro, and talk to our other industry partners.
Our industry is growing in terms of consumers purchasing more online. And as our business grows, then we're looking for more workers to help us with our volume increase. Professor Medina teaches logistics at East Los Angeles College, and we also recruit at East Los Angeles College. So he's recruiting more students as we're recruiting more workers.
The market itself overall has exploded over the last 2 to 3 years. If the person's well-rounded and has that ability to work hard, learn, develop, we can do the rest.
So whether you're the driver or whether you're the supply chain manager, there's a career for you that pays exceptionally well. One of the lowest paying jobs in logistics is about 50 grand a year. Mid-level is about 80,000. High level is about 120,000 plus. So you choose. You choose what you want to do. You choose what program is going to get you there. We can do that for you.
Oops. Okay. Well, that was a short video for you to prove that we are out to be a support function for you, to help you upskill, reskill your workforce at East Los Angeles College Logistics Program. And this is something that I've learned working with employers. The more they grow, the more your organization grows. Organizations grow when people grow. And when we are growing our people, our organizations will grow. It's just the way it works. We can get better machines, better trucks, better robots. At the end of the day, what causes organizations to grow are when people are growing. But we have to be very intentional about creating pathways to growth. Our logistics program at East Los Angeles College has 8-week courses, 100% online. There is also an in-person option and even a hybrid option so that we can meet the needs of all your employees. Mobile learning is real. Download the Canvas app and you can do 80 to 100% of your coursework from your smartphone. Your employees during their break can open up their smartphone, their iPhone or Android, and tap on the Canvas app and knock out some assignments even while on break from their smartphone. Our program is committed to causing every student to earn skills and be part of a fast career advancement at your organization. Some certificates that are in demand from our employers have told us leadership is very important. That's 3 courses will earn your workforce a leadership in global logistics certificate. Logistics analyst for that critical thinker, problem solver, data miner, 5 courses. Logistics specialist, 6 courses for the logistics specialist. Industry safety standards post-COVID. This is a hot certificate that we have. Every single one of these certificates can be earned in 1 semester. Why? 8-week modules. A semester is 16 weeks, but we break them up into 2. And that's how students can earn these certificates in 1 semester to reskill, upskill, and be more effective at their existing jobs. We also have an associate's of science degree for every single student that wants to transfer to a 4-year university. Every single course that they take with us is CSU transferable. Every single course is CSU transferable. So some students get motivated, they get momentum, and they're off to their associate's degree plan and off to a 4-year university. We want to be that academic partner for you and for all your employees. Lastly, let's talk. That's my email address. Let's talk. Let's work out a plan and a strategy alongside with Goodwill to get your employees learning and earning, growing so that your organizations can grow. So I'm looking forward to working with the employers here and creating a pathway to success through career education at East Los Angeles College Logistics Program. Thank you very much for your time.
Wow, thank you so much, Professor Medina. That was perfect. I love this. It's a perfect segue, especially you talking with the online training and everything else. It's a perfect segue to our workforce development tools and Dennis Grogan and what we do to help develop the company so that they're ready to take their employees and highlight those different skills that they need to grow with, and then bringing them straight to a resource like you to get that skill taken care of and learn so they can progress their career. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dennis Grogan. He's our last speaker before we get our conversation rolling. and he's going to be sharing our workforce development tools and our toolkit and what it's all about. So Dennis, over to you, brother.
Leo, that was awesome. Thank you so much. It's going to be tough to follow that, but I think there's a really good connection between talking about the career and skill development at the universities and the career and upskill development at the companies. I'm at a company today. I was in early, so I'm kind of dressed in shop gear, but that's where the training really happens is out in the warehouse. It's out in the shop floor. And sometimes I dress like a chameleon so that I don't seem like much of a threat. So our skill set, our workforce development toolkit is a DIY, it's a do-it-yourself. And what we want to do is be able to empower employers to continue that pathway from a place like East Los Angeles College straight into the company and have their structured learning continue. So that pathway from education into employment requires that employers have the ability to create the learning environment that Luis talked about in the very beginning. So engagement is certainly that method to get that pathway really firing. And so we support logistics companies and manufacturers as well as healthcare in giving you a treetop train the trainer to help establish that pathway. And I'm proud to say we can offer it to anyone on the call. If you believe that you want to try to mature your learning and teaching environment and you want to create a more formal pathway, just please reach out to us and we'd be happy to come and see you. The keys to this are really going to be detailed out here in a little bit, but our goal is to establish a policy at the senior leadership level for learning and teaching. And that's really where it begins. I ran a poll just recently on LinkedIn about what people struggle with in getting their career pathways established inside the company. And so far, 90+% of the votes are senior leadership support. So if you're a senior leader you're on this call, and you don't have a formal career pathway plan or upskilling program, please reach out because we're more than happy to give you those guides and help coach you through it. A lot of companies are already doing OJT, or, we joke around that it's follow Joe training, where someone comes on board and it's like, well, Joe's the best at that. Follow Joe or follow Josephine, and they're the ones that know how to do it. You're already doing the training in that regard. Why not provide more structure to it so that it is better adopted and you have more repeatable training for people? I find the on-the-job training to have high variability. So we want to cross-train by function and department. We really promote safety in addition to process maturity. And we want product quality and quantity awareness for our upskilling goals. There are objectives that people need to meet when they're at work. And enhancing the communication begins with that established policy from leaders that said, we're going to do this. We're actually going to commit to this and we're going to go for it. Continual improvement in problem solving is another recommendation beyond raw skill development for a task or a department. Because once you have upskilled people and they're in their process, if they have the ability to solve problems, it's only going to contribute to the company's success and the greater success of the group. So we want to try to demonstrate that we can have fun safely and work as a team. And one of the things that we begin with inside of our toolkit is to establish values with the leaders that they acknowledge their team for. We're trying to modify behavior in a lot of regards. And so if we can acknowledge people and thank them for the things that they've done to help us realize our values, and we just throw this safety, fun, and team, but replace that with your own values at your own organization. How do we get people to behave in the way that we've established in our strategic planning? Well, acknowledge them. Acknowledge them. And most of our clients, we give them these poker chips, and middle managers have these things in their pocket, and people can turn them in for a spin at a prize wheel, or for efforts that go unseen largely by senior leaders because of proximity. The upskilling itself, when we develop our formal training matrix, we do by department or function, and typically recommend 4 levels of that. Someone that's been trained is different than someone who can perform work solo. When you've shown someone a new skill for the first time, we caution that it's a red skill in the sense that it may not be repeatable yet for quality or quantity. And there's a cost associated to oversight with someone who's new. So if you've got a brand new learner and they're trying to build confidence, the worst thing we can do at that point is expect that they're going to be performing at the level of people that have been doing it over a period of time. So leaders, can acknowledge the difference between someone who's been trained and someone who can perform and act solo. Then the higher levels of learning are those that can teach others. A key to teaching others is a willingness to do the teaching. We find a lot of competing apprenticeship programs don't spend enough time developing mentors and training trainers to deliver meaningful training. And there's a high structure to that. And those people willing to dedicate their own time to investing in others. I find that a lot of the silver wave, I think you called it the silver tsunami, Leo, and the retiring baby boomers want to leave their legacy. They don't want to, most of them don't want to walk away. They've accumulated skill and knowledge over their entire lifetime. And the best thing we can do is have them start to mentor people, but not like a 30-day mentorship. In most places, we recommend multiple years. And we've also had success with different clients in building programs where retirees come in 1 or 2 days a week and continue to impart their knowledge on that workforce so their wisdom doesn't go away and their purpose is more fulfilled in their retirement. It is a great thing when you see someone who's retired come back once a week or twice a week and continue to develop those other folks in the organization with that wisdom they've accumulated. The highest level we find is those that can improve a process with data. Something took an hour, now it takes a half hour. Okay, well, how do we train others in that? So what we recommend is a training within industry model. Training within industry has been around since World War II. It was the method developed by the government to help train Rosie the Riveters, quote unquote, who went into the factories to help supply goods to the Allies during World War II. Unfortunately, the government dismantled the training within industry model, but it was picked up by Toyota in the early 1950s. And that's what this upskill matrix method is really developed on. So this training within industry model is one that really has endured over the decades as a method to make sure that there's good job instruction, there's good job method, and good job relations. At Goodwill, we add safety into everything. So when you go out to do training and you're a willing trainer, we need to make sure that you know how to not only just show the method of the job, but do we have any written work instructions or standard operating procedures? What is the standard that we're looking for people to sustain or to work towards? So we want to make sure that we give people good instruction. We want to be able to demonstrate a method for them. And we want to have good relations with people so that we understand the struggles that they have in learning. I find that there are multiple types of learners. There's the high speed, low drag learner who is just off to the races. You give them a little bit of information and they're gone. And then there's the slow speed, high drag learners who take more time. And I actually find that those people go into a deeper level of learning, and they oftentimes on the other end, it might be more difficult to get them to the finish line, but they maybe didn't go so fast over some details, and they'll pick up more of that quality inside of the work that they do long term. We promote safety with people so that everything that employers deliver comes with this notion of safety first. Safety is about prevention. A good training program has a good plan, and it should always include making sure that people go home intact. There's a 4-step method, and I won't go heavily into this, but point your attention to the left-hand side of the screen. We really promote, inside of doing a training, a plan, do, check, act method. It was Plan, Do, Check, Act has been around a long time. A gentleman by the name of Schuhart invented it. It was popularized by Dr. Deming. And what it basically says is that we're not going to just follow Joe. What we're going to do is make a good plan with good job instructions and a good idea for showing the method of the training, and that we're going to understand people learn at different levels and try to support them through doing it, measuring what went wrong after it during the checked phase, and then acting on the next training that might support the initiatives that the senior leaders around this time of year going into fall, they'll start doing their 2023 planning. I often ask them how much of this year's plan got done and how much of that was about workforce development and training. And so we get a lot of different answers, but we find that giving a time-proven method for developing folks, it's agnostic to industry. So global trade and logistics, healthcare, manufacturing, service industries, the method applies universally. So we want to, again, build a do-it-yourself program where you don't have to always come to us. And there's tons of continued education learning that goes inside of this that is available. We want to engage employees to get them on that growth pathway that Leo described earlier. That engagement that he mentioned comes not only in the instruction and the method, but really the knowledge of how to do the work and what are our responsibilities. There's more that goes into upskill training and apprenticeship than just the task itself. We want to really raise their awareness about our businesses, what is a win for us and what isn't a win. We want to work more as a team. And right now, with things like quiet quitting, there's a lot of individualization. People sometimes feel separated and segregated. And at work, we want to try to develop not just their skill, but their knowledge of the business so that they feel included. Nothing gets you more rapid, accelerated growth than the lightning speed of empowerment. And that's actually an old school book. If you look it up, The Lightning Speed of Empowerment is just about how do you get people involved, not just in the skill, but the knowledge of the business.
I love that book.
Well, I'm going to date myself, but when I first, I won't date myself, but that book is it's a tremendous starter for a leader who's having a hard time letting go of power or control for fear of risk in safety or quality or whatever. The best thing you can do is get out of your own way a lot of times. So some recommended reading for those that are trying to create their own career pathway plans when establishing the learning and teaching policy. The Toyota Engagement Equation is a great book. The Toyota Talent Book for the Upskill Training Matrix. It's a detailed how-to on how to develop that training matrix. And problem solving with Toyota Kata. I don't think Toyota is the be-all end-all. What I think is that these are good reference books for these topics. The training within industry, there's a lot of information out there. You can take courses with us or with other folks, but this facilitator's guide is a great how-to. So if you're trying to figure out, how do I do different job relations, job instruction, job method training. This is a group of books that should be on your shelf, and we should be sharing with our trainers. So if we're about to go engage people in good job relations, you know, Toyota equation, the Toyota engagement equation might help give you some new ideas. It might also help you solidify things that you are doing and help make sure you feel like you're on the right track.
You know, Dennis, maybe that's actually a good segue to see, you know, some of the employers on the call and just how the problems that they're having with developing their workforces and how they're doing. I don't know, just food for thought. Closing in on the last 13 minutes here.
I'm going to blast through a couple last things, and then let's ask that question. You know, what is the biggest problem when it comes to workforce? I want to make sure companies know that they need to stay competitive with this stuff. So you can see some of our tools in action here. Couple keys to success: involve everybody, communicate, trust the process, crawl, walk, and then run. You don't have to boil the ocean. You can just get going. And a few pitfalls to avoid: letting the tyranny of the urgent take over, where you do something else instead of training. Thinking that follow Joe is just okay. And when you're doing training, be careful not to use hard to replace materials or high priority hot jobs. That adds a lot of pressure, undue pressure on those associates. So there it is. I think Daniel's point of, you know, us querying you is there. It's, you know, you've heard from me, you've heard from Leo, you've heard from Daniel and Luis. What do you find out there is your tough problem with your workforce development?
Anybody can go ahead and just unmute and speak up. Anybody that has a thought. We got a lot of different employers here. Did I hear somebody?
Dan Butera from AMS. Can you guys hear me?
I just could hear you. Say your name again.
Dan Butera from AMS.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so Dennis, I think we've spent a little bit of time together, and you know, we appreciate that we're going to be revisiting that in the new year to come. I could speak that from a workforce development standpoint. I think AMS has had, you know, a long, rich history of, you know, real deep dedication to workforce development and kind of tapping into unused workforces and showing them that there is a field or a future within the line of logistics, right? And, you know, as Ms. Medina said, you know, it is the future. E-com is the future. And I think for many of us, without showing our age, right, when we were in college or I was kind of training back in the day, there were no logistics programs. There were no supply chain programs, all these great buzz terms, you know, and in essence, we kind of refer to ourselves, or I refer to us as like the land of broken toys, right? We've all kind of built up this industry, and now, you know, we have universities like Stanford and the great university that Mr. Medina is part of that now kind of educate people. I think with us in particular, it is not so much a development aspect, it's an attraction, right? Like, what leads people to want to be part of a fulfillment house or start on the warehouse floor and then work their way up to, you know, my seat, which is the COO, right? And I always say, I want to work with people that from every level of the company that eventually want to sit in my seat, but attracting that talent to us, because we are not Google, we are not Facebook, we are not, you know, we have the dirty face of Amazon, even though we are a significantly better environment to work in. You know, we're family oriented, we pay benefits, we are a B Corp, we treat people very fairly above and beyond all. But how do we ultimately attract people to be part of our industry, knowing that there is physical work to be done as you climb up the ladder? I would say that's probably our biggest challenge right now.
It's not a remote job, is it?
It is not. It is not a remote job, right? It is physical. You have to be here. You have to push the cart. And even us in leadership positions, we are on the floor, right? We are ultimately floor people who have kind of, I don't want to say elevated, but we've kind of just grown into these positions to become floor support. But that floor is the most important. And without that base knowledge, it is impossible to become successful at the highest levels of any company in the field of logistics and fulfillment. You just need that base experience, right? And how do we attract people in college or who don't have college experience, you know, who don't have a college degree? How do we attract them to want to be part of this industry and start at a level and communicate properly that there is a very bright future here. That's our biggest problem.
Anybody on the line have any tricks about attraction to what Dan's saying? How do we attract talent into this pool? I like how it began with this being, Leo was talking about an essential workforce and that it was COVID proof. I heard you say, Dan, that there's a career, there's a career there. I don't know that people know that. I think it's a branding issue. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that's the difficult thing of, once again, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there were not these college programs. So all of us who have kind of risen through the ranks into leadership positions of companies, we've all started out on the floor. And I think if you ask any one of us, I hope we would all say, I know that I would say that that is the most valuable experience I've ever had, right? Because how do you manage without knowing, right? How do you have a connection to the reality? And I think we're, AMS, our industry, third-party fulfillment in general is just one of these industries where you don't necessarily need a formal education to succeed in it. And I think we just struggle with, taking those people who are part of the temp industry, taking individuals who necessarily didn't have the greatest start in their either workforce development or even life, and showing them that they could build a very fruitful future here. And it's been a true difficult thing for us.
I have some insights. I worked for UPS close to 20 years, and my latter part was in HR, and part of that was talent acquisition. But I used three steps or three points to attract talent. How can you attract talent to work and handle boxes, right, for 4, 5, 6 hours and get really dirty, blah, 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 whatever. Here's 3 points that I use. Number one, the power of the brand. And I leverage that every single time. Number one logistics company in the world, resume builder, the skills that you'll learn, add those to your resume, be with us for a year, leverage the brand, leverage the experience so you can go off and do wonderful things. The students like that a lot. Along with that, the flexibility of working 4 or 5 hours a day, leaving, going to get your shift, going to get your work done after your 4 or 5 hour shift. That type of flexibility while building the brand, while building your resume, working for the number 1 or number 2, whatever company in the world, that kids like that, but they need to be told that. In addition, number 2, I would always present the career ladder. If you come with us, whether you want to be with us for a year, 2 or 3 years, here's a career ladder. If you want to go into the IT side, we got a career path. If we want to go into operations side, we got a career. If you want to be a driver, we got a career path. There's multiple pathways you can take, and our job is to put you on the pathway that fits your talent, that fits your skill set. And they really like the pathway that fits their skill set. You have to lay it out, what it looks like, how much they'll make, and so on. And then third, the purpose. Many people leave quiet quitting, great resignation. It boils down to purpose and values. And so, how do you get a package hunter to find purpose in what they do? That's a tough sell. But what I used to do is I used to say, listen, what you're moving is just not boxes. You're moving a lot of meaningful things. If we don't move the world's GDP, 6% of the world's GDP, then many mom and pops cannot function. They cannot operate. Great organization as Smargus cannot function if we don't come to work every day at 2 a.m. There was a 2 a.m. shift. That shop cannot open up at 8 a.m. if we don't get this done before 7 a.m. Someone's waiting for their chemo pills in these boxes. These boxes contain very meaningful items. Someone is waiting for these items to continue living. So our job has purpose, has meaning, not only globally, domestically, but even to people's lives. And that's what we're doing here. And then at the same time, we want to also put you on a career path. So I use those three strategies and that companies a lot of times struggle with, and those are the 3 things I used to use. I don't know, that might help, that might not help.
Yeah, that's very appreciated. Thank you.
I was going to add, one of the reasons obviously that we're here as well is to try to problem solve for this. And I think that the benefit of having Goodwill as a partner in this is that some of the things that we might be able to do is maybe even create some sort of marketing videos or tools to tell that story. Let's tell that story, that narrative that Professor Medina was sharing. And really showcase our partners, right? Showcase all of you, AMS, everyone sort of in this call as options or those companies that are looking for that type of employee within the field. So that's one of the things that I'll put out there is we could definitely look at doing something like that for you all, and seeing if there's a way that we might be able to tell that narrative and increase the marketing to get more folks excited about what this work is about, right? And really the why of this work. So just putting it out there to see if that's something that this group would want to look into.
I love it. Is that a yes from anybody? Would anybody on this call, is that something that people would need help with? I'll just pose it as we're finishing up here in the last couple of minutes. Does anybody say yes?
AMS, I'll raise my hand. I'd say, yeah, I think we would like some of that assistance. I mean, more insight, more help is better than none for sure. So it's appreciated.
That's great. That's great. I know we got some others on the call when it comes to workforce development and getting the word out and awareness that your careers exist at your company. I know I see we have Amazon on the call. We have Angie. I see Acceleron still on the call too. Anybody else with any final thoughts?
This is Randy from Acceleron, and we're in manufacturing, and I share the same issues as the guys from AMS. Doesn't matter what kind of program we put in place. I mean, Goodwill, Dennis has a great program we're going to use, working with Daniel, and I think we can really develop our workforce. It's getting the new blood, the new people to come in, and how to attract them. It's even to get them to come to the front door to want to apply for a job or let us tell the story to them. That's the struggle, I think, in the manufacturing industry. Sounds like in the logistics industry, is how do we attract the people to let them know, hey, there is a career here. There is a good pathway for the future. And if we have any struggle right now, that is the biggest struggle. I think we can build an apprentice program. We can work with Dennis and build a great thing to upscale the people and really build a great pathway. It's how do we get the traction to get them interested to even come look at us?
I think that's actually a key point, and part of that is what Professor Medina was saying too, is what are the students looking for? What are the young adults looking for? And what do they need? What are their problems? And how is the company going to help solve those problems? And you mentioned it right off the gate, and this is what Dennis was talking about too. It's, well, part of it is that career path. Part of it's that guttural wanting to come to work because they're part of something bigger and they're having internal fulfillment, and they love their work and what they do. That's something that Professor Medina was saying. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. One of the bigger ones is that career path and knowing that they're going somewhere, knowing that, hey, where am I going to be in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year if I stay with this company? I think that's just the low hanging fruit here, guys. We just need to get that one done. That's one should be done at your company. If it's not, let's do that one first. And then we can start going down the path of getting more awareness and more structure around some of the other problems that these younger workforce, as they're coming in, that they may have barrier to entry. That being said, we are at time. So if you do have any other further questions, if there's any other information that you want to give that you didn't maybe get a chance to share, please reach out to myself or Tracy Martinez. We would be more than happy to talk and communicate. Hopefully this was a great information for you. I'll leave you with this call to action. If you do not have workforce development at one of your plants, one of your locations, please, this is very much just free for you. We will bring Dennis in, myself in, and we'd be more than happy to take a look and give you whatever tool out of our toolbox that you need to help help your workforce development progress. So yeah, I will leave you with that. Thank you very much for everyone. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Professor Medina. Thank you, Luis, Dennis, Tracy, for everyone being here and putting this on. And thank you for everyone showing up. All righty.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.